At the start of the movie, we meet Sarah, a saleswoman sitting alone in her car. Her eyes are closed, and in her mind, she's sitting peacefully by a quiet river. Sarah often used meditation to escape from her stressful and tiring life. But soon, she opens her eyes and returns to reality. She drives to a customer's house to sell solar panels. Smiling politely, she explains that she installs and delivers solar panels. However, the customer suddenly jumps into his car and drives away, leaving her completely shocked and confused. Later, Sarah visits her therapist, Dr. Theodore. During their session, she talks about how hard and stressful her life feels. Dr. Theodore listens and tells her that not everything in life can be controlled, and sometimes people just need to learn acceptance. Sarah admits that she can't stop overthinking. Her mind is always busy. The doctor advises her to keep meditating, saying too much thinking is harmful to her mental health. As the session ends, Sarah starts up to leave, but pauses and tells Dr. Theodore that after 2 years of therapy, she still feels no improvement. Dr. Theodore calmly replies that they must continue until they finally make a breakthrough. Later that day, Sarah goes to meet her childhood friend, Kayla. While working out, Kayla tells her that she has arranged a date for Sarah with her brother's friend on Friday. She encourages Sarah to take a break from her stressful routine and give it a try. At first, Sarah refuses, but after Kayla insists, she finally agrees to go on the date. When Sarah reaches home, she finds her landlord, Barry, waiting outside her door. He reminds her that the rent is due. Sarah looks tired and apologetic. She promises she'll pay him soon. After Barry leaves, she steps inside her small apartment, which feels cold and lonely. She looks at the bottles of medicine on her table and sits down quietly. The weight of her problems presses heavily on her mind. She begins to think that maybe ending her life would be easier than living this painful, meaningless routine. But after a few moments, she shakes her head and forces that dark thought away. She changes her clothes, lies on her bed, and stares at the ceiling. Her mind keeps racing, memories, worries, and random thoughts swirling together. Even with her eyes closed, she cannot sleep. After a long struggle, she finally drifts off, only to be awakened the next morning by the sound of her alarm. Still half asleep, Sarah slowly gets out of bed and drags herself to work. Her day passes in the same dull pattern, meeting customers, driving around, and pretending to smile. By the evening, she comes home completely exhausted. As soon as she sits down, her phone rings. It's her mother. Her mom starts advising her to find another, more stable job, but Sarah tells her that she actually likes working as a saleswoman. Trying to change the topic, Sarah mentions that she has a date that night. Her mom gets excited and tells her to wear something beautiful and make a good impression, but Sarah doesn't feel like dressing up. She puts on a simple, casual outfit and heads to the restaurant. There she meets Tucker, the man she was supposed to have dinner with. At first, everything seems fine, but as they talk, Tucker begins bragging arrogantly about his boss and his business success. His tone and attitude irritate Sarah. During dinner, he continues talking only about himself, acting as if he's superior to everyone. When dinner ends, Tucker leans forward and invites her to come to his house. Sarah politely refuses, saying she's going back to her own place. Tucker smirks, thinking she's inviting him over instead. Sarah frowns and clearly tells him that he's rude and self-centered, and she's not interested in spending any more time with him. Offended, Tucker tells her that he's attractive and that she's lucky he even asked, calling her not that pretty. That's the final straw. Sarah stands up angrily, scolds him for his arrogance, and walks out. She drives home in silence, feeling drained and broken inside. At home, Sarah sits on her bed and stares at her bottle of pills again. Tears fill her eyes as she opens the cap and pours the tablets into her hand. She's about to take them when suddenly the television turns on by itself. A strange show is playing. The host, dressed formally, is speaking directly into the camera. His calm but serious voice says something shocking, that the world Sarah lives in isn't real. It's a simulation, one of billions created by people from the future to study alternate versions of history. Sarah stares at the screen in disbelief. The host then says, "To prove it, look at your hand. You're holding a banana." Confused, Sarah looks down and gasps. The pills are gone. There's an actual banana in her hand. The host continues explaining. He says that this particular simulation will end in 1 week. The world will be erased soon. Every person will soon receive a message informing them of this. He adds that revealing this information is part of their law. Not doing so would be a serious crime in their world. Before the broadcast ends, the host explains that when the simulation ends, everyone will be given 2 choices: stay in this world, even as it collapses, move to a new simulation, a different version of reality. He adds that soon, each person will receive a guide, someone who will appear and explain both choices carefully so that everyone can decide what they truly want. When the strange TV show ends, Sarah sits frozen in shock. Just then, there's a knock on her door. She slowly opens it and is stunned to see the same man who had just appeared on her television screen, the host from the show. Before she can speak, the man smiles gently and says, "I know what you're thinking. I look like the person you saw on TV, but I'm not him. My name doesn't matter. I'm a guide, an artificial intelligence program created to help you make the right choice when the time comes." Sarah, still processing everything, stares at him and asks, "How many times have you seen this happen? How many simulations have ended before this one?" The guide replies calmly, "I've witnessed around 140 billion simulations end." Sarah's eyes widen in disbelief. 140 billion? She whispers. The number feels impossible to comprehend. She stands up suddenly and starts pacing the room, trying to take it all in. The guide sitting at her table continues speaking in his calm, steady voice. "You should rest, Sarah. I don't need sleep or food. I'll stay right here and wait for you until morning." The next morning, Sarah goes to see her therapist, Dr. Theodore. As soon as she sits down, she starts talking rapidly, almost relieved to finally share the truth. "I realized I've been worrying too much about the future," she says, "but it doesn't matter anymore because none of this is real. We're all living inside a simulation and no one truly controls anything." Her words hit the therapist like a thunderbolt. He sits back, visibly shaken. "A simulation?" he mutters. "That can't be true. I've worked so hard for my patients, for my life. Don't tell me all of that means nothing." Sarah tries to calm him down, but he's too upset. "I'm not like you, Sarah," he says sharply. "I can't just accept this. How can anyone live knowing everything they care about is fake?" After a long pause, he sighs heavily and adds, "When the time comes, I'll choose option B. I'll go to another simulation. Maybe that one will make sense." Sarah looks at him sadly and says, "All right, then I'll come to see you again next week." Her words make the doctor angry. "Next week? There won't be a next week. The simulation ends this week," he snaps, his voice trembling with fear. Sarah quietly stands and leaves his office. Later that day, Sarah sits with her guide at a quiet coffee shop. The world outside seems peaceful but strangely hollow. Sarah stirs her drink and asks, "Do you know how many people usually choose option A?" The guide shakes his head slightly. "I can't reveal that information," he says, "but in all the simulations I've witnessed, only a small number of people ever choose to stay." That makes Sarah pause. For a moment, she thinks about her own life, the quiet, the solitude, how she's always preferred being alone. Maybe she's one of those few people meant to stay behind. "Then maybe I should choose option A," she says softly. After a pause, she looks at her guide again. "Have you seen other versions of me in other simulations?" she asks carefully. The guide doesn't answer directly. "I was sent only to help you make your decision," he replies calmly. Sarah studies him closely. His silence tells her more than words could. There are other versions of her out there, living in other timelines, making different choices. Later, the two of them visit Sarah's friend Kayla. They find her in a park, praying with her guide. Kayla tells Sarah that they're praying to the creator, the being who built their simulation. "Come join us," Kayla urges. "Maybe it will bring you peace." But Sarah shakes her head gently. "My guide says he already has a direct connection with the creator," she explains, "so I don't need to pray." Later, Sarah and her guide return to her house. As they settle in, Sarah begins to speak softly but with determination. "I've made up my mind," she says. "When this world ends, everyone will move on to another simulation, but I want to stay here. I'll choose option A. I like being alone, and I think I'll be happy here." Her guide listens patiently and replies in his calm, robotic voice. "Sarah, living alone sounds peaceful only at first, but after some days, loneliness will begin to grow heavy. You might feel trapped, bored, and even suffocated by your own silence." Sarah doesn't answer. She looks at her phone and notices several missed calls, 5, all from her mother. Feeling guilty, she quickly calls back. Her mother's cheerful voice answers, inviting her to come home for lunch. Sarah agrees, and that afternoon, she and her guide drive to her parents' house. When they arrive and ring the doorbell, her father Gary opens the door, wearing nothing but his underwear. Embarrassed, he laughs awkwardly as Sarah's mother, Saran, rushes in and hands him his clothes. Once they're all inside, Saran asks warmly, "Would you like something to drink?" Sarah shakes her head politely. "No, Mom. I've stopped drinking alcohol." They sit down for lunch together, but soon Sarah notices something strange, muffled sounds coming from the basement. Then Gary suddenly yells, "Quiet down there!" Startled, Sarah looks at him. "Dad, who are you talking to?" she asks. Gary sighs and admits, "It's my guide. I locked him in the basement. I don't want him to know what I've decided." Sarah frowns. "You locked your guide up?" Her father shrugs. "I just don't trust that machine. Anyway, your mother and I have already decided to take option B. We'll go to the new simulation." Sarah lowers her gaze and quietly says, "I've chosen option A. I'm staying here." Her parents look at each other, then both burst out laughing. Gary chuckles. "You'll stay here all alone? And who's going to look after you when everyone's gone?" The laughter stings. Sarah's eyes fill with tears, and without saying a word, she stands up and walks out of the house. Saran turns to Gary and says gently, "Go after her. You hurt her feelings." A few minutes later, Gary steps outside outside and finds Sarah standing by the car, looking upset. He sighs and says softly, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to make fun of you." Sarah looks at him and replies, "Dad, I just want peace. I'm tired of people and noise. I like being alone. That's why I want to stay." Gary nods thoughtfully. "If that's truly how you feel, then before you decide, ask your guide why this simulation is ending. Once you know the reason, it might be easier to make your choice." Sarah smiles faintly, hugs both her parents, and says goodbye. As she drives away with her guide, she turns to him and asks, "Tell me the truth. Why is this simulation ending?" The guide pauses before answering. "It's because of humans," he says calmly. "The penguins have gone extinct in this world. Every time a species disappears forever, the balance of that world collapses. When the last penguin died, the simulation reached its end." Sarah stares ahead, her heart sinking. "So humanity caused its own destruction," she murmurs. "We ended ourselves." Tears fill her eyes as she tells the guide to get out of the car. She says, "I've made my choice. I'll stay here. Option A." The guide gets out, looks at her for a moment and replies, "Very well, Sarah, but remember, I'll always be watching over you." When Sarah gets home, she sits in her car and suddenly starts screaming loudly, letting out all her anger and pain. Just then, her landlord Barry walks up to her car. Without asking anything, he hands her a flyer for a party that will take place next Friday night. The next morning, Sarah records a voice message for her parents, telling them that she has finally made her choice. She will stay in this world and choose option A. After sending the message, she turns up the music, starts dancing wildly around her house, drinks heavily, and ends up breaking and destroying almost everything in the room. After a while, she steps outside to get some air and sees Barry lying peacefully on the grass. When she asks what he's doing, he calmly says, "It's almost time. This world will end soon, and everyone will wake up in a new simulation." His words leave Sarah uneasy, but she doesn't say anything. Later, Sarah calls her friend Kayla and asks her to come with her to the Friday night party that Barry had invited her to. Kayla agrees happily. When the night of the party arrives, Sarah and Kayla go together. The place is full of people, loud music, flashing lights, laughter, and drinks everywhere. While looking around, Sarah spots Tucker, the man she once went on a date with. Tucker walks up to her and says, "Can we spend some time together?" But Sarah immediately refuses. She looks for Kayla to escape the situation, but Kayla is too busy dancing and enjoying the party. Then Barry suddenly steps onto a small stage and shouts to the crowd, "Listen everyone, the simulation will end exactly 1 minute from now." At midnight, the music stops and everyone looks around nervously. As the clock strikes 12, Sarah closes her eyes. Everything goes silent. 2 years later, Sarah is still in the same simulation. She's the only one left, living quietly and peacefully in her empty world. She spends her days in silence, enjoying being alone, just as she always wanted. But one day she sees someone walking toward her. It's Tucker. He smiles and says, "Hey Sarah, I stayed too. I wanted to be alone, so I chose option A as well. Maybe we can spend some time together now." Sarah's face hardens. "No, Tucker, I don't want that," she says coldly and walks away. When she gets back to her apartment, she slams the door and starts screaming again, loud, angry, and heartbroken. She wanted complete silence and solitude in this world, but even here, she realizes she's not truly alone. The next morning, Sarah decides to ride her bicycle into the nearby forest, hoping to clear her mind. But as she pedals down the quiet road, she realizes that someone is following her. When she looks back, she sees Tucker, the man she thought she had left behind. When they reach the forest trail, Tucker catches up and says tiredly, "Maybe I made a mistake. I should have chosen option B. This endless loneliness. It's driving me crazy." Sarah turns to him, her voice sharp and cold. "Then maybe this is your punishment, Tucker, for being cruel and arrogant. You treated people terribly, and now you're paying for it." Tucker glares at her and replies bitterly, "And you're no better. You're selfish, Sarah. You only care about yourself." Anger flashes in Sarah's eyes. She turns and starts running deeper into the woods, but Tucker follows her, trying to catch up. "Wait, let me help," he says, reaching for her bag. "You don't have to carry everything alone." But Sarah, overwhelmed by fear and frustration, shoves him away. Tucker loses his balance, falls backward, and hits his head on a rock. He lies still. Sarah freezes in shock and then realizes he's dead. Her hands tremble. Her breath comes in short gasps. The guilt hits her like a wave. From that day on, every time she walks through the forest, she starts seeing visions of Tucker, standing among the trees staring silently at her. Days later, there's a sudden knock at her door. Sarah, frightened, grabs a knife and slowly opens it, only to find her guide standing outside. He speaks in his calm, familiar tone. "Sarah, I've been watching over you for a long time. You're not the only one who chose to stay. There are about 2.5 million people in this simulation who decided to live alone, just like you." Sarah looks down, her voice trembling. "When I was alone for those 2 years, I thought I was happy. But after Tucker died, I realized something. I do care about people. I just didn't want to admit it." The guide nods gently. "When Tucker died, His consciousness was transferred to another simulation, the one where everyone else went. Option B, I can still send you there if you'd like. In all the simulations I've seen, those who chose to live alone eventually begged to return to others. Sarah thinks for a long moment, then whispers, I'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow, you can send me to the other simulation. The guide agrees. Before leaving, he turns back and says quietly, Sarah, I've met 321,000 versions of you across different simulations. I didn't tell you before because all of them chose option B, and I didn't want that to influence your decision. Many of those versions ended their own lives, never realizing they were inside a simulation. But out of all of them, you are the only Sarah who completed this entire journey. After he leaves, Sarah walks to the riverbank as the sun begins to set. She sits down, takes out her tablets, and looks at them quietly. Then with a faint, peaceful smile, she gazes at the water, accepting everything she has been through. And that's how the parallel universe ends. I hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment, and I'll be back soon with another amazing movie. Until then, take care. Thank you for watching.